Can you believe that? I mean, we had this guy in our class who came here and said, look, I've tried your strokes, man. I don't even want to use them. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say to the guy. I said, well, didn't they make sense? He goes, oh, yeah, they really made sense. I said, well, do you play? He goes, yeah. I said, who do you play? He said, I only played 3 guys. I said, well, how do you do with them? He said, I kill them. I said, well, why'd you come here? He said, thought I could beat them worse. Believe that? So I said, look, you don't have any problems unless those 3 guys move.
Hey, Coach Braden, what's on the docket this afternoon?
Volley, half volley. They're the biggies. Now we're going to see you there in just a half a second on the court. See you
Great,
then.
thanks.
Right. You believe that, Coach? All right. A volley is any ball you hit in the air before it touches the ground. Here's a little drill we're using to help you work on your volley. Come on in. Very good. As you can see, some of the volleys are really terrific, and some of them ain't too hot. Okay, that's it. Come on up to the net. Yeah. You were terrific. Look, first of all, I want you to understand that a volley generates a real basic emotion. Fear. Now, it's very important that you try to get rid of some of these fears, but it's a real fear and you're going to have to deal with it. We know that the closer that you get to the net sometimes, the greater is the fear. And we even have photographs of people here like this, but as they get closer, it goes. So it's a little tough. We even had one lady at our tennis college, we loved her, but she would run to the net and she would freeze and it was just panicky, but she could talk. She would just stand there and go, the ball is going to hit me. And it would. I mean, they bounced balls off of her bod the whole week she was here. And we say, hey, wait a minute, why go up there? Why don't you just back up a little? And she said, when I back up, I just get hit further back. So we said, well then, why do you go to the net? And she goes, because I love to attack. We couldn't believe it. You're going to have a good volley, whether you like it or not. And if you have a good volley, it's going to help you overcome fears. So why not develop a good one? Now, the problem that we find is people run to the net, and then they think they're going to get into one position and stay there for all time. You see them go, made it. And boy, they're not going to move at all. The idea is you're not going to land with glue on your feet here. This is like a bus station, and you're only going to start from this position. When you see your opponent drives the ball, you're going to go forward. If you see they're going to lob, you're going to go backward. But when people who land like and become glue pot,
they go, is it going to my backhand or to my forehand? Terrific shot. You don't go anyway, but you've got to make up your mind, and you're going to end up having to run one way or the other. Remember, when you're going to the net, you're going up there for a purpose. The purpose is to end the point. You're not in the middle of a point. You're trying desperately to end it. So in your mind, you should be getting up there to end the point. Put it away. Now, remember, if you are close to the net, you don't need much talent. Matter of fact, if you're on top of the net, you could volley with your earlobe. But you see, if you're further back, you need more talent. Now you have to really take that baby and push it out there hard. If you volley from about halfway between the net and the service line, that's 10.5 feet back. Now you're going to have to hit at about a 30-degree angle to keep it inside the sidelines. In other words, if I get the hit here, I hit it there or there. I can only change my stroke 30 degrees or the ball is going out. But if I could get 2 steps forward, now how do I know I'm going to be going forward? If my opponent's going to drive, there's no reason for me to stay back there. Now, if they're going to drive the ball, I run on top of the net. But guess what? I get 100 more degrees. I now have 130 degrees where I can volley. And now that really pushes people fence to fence. But people say, hey, you just demonstrate a little thing like this, like you're going to volley out. But you don't have to volley out up here. If you get on top of the net, geez, I tell you, you can be a toad in volley. You go doink, doink, doink. All right, let's break down the volley stroke. Lori, Suan, would you bring the balls over, please? Starting off, you've got to have this racket face pointed right out towards your target. Don't get yourself in a position where that racket is so late that it's not pointing towards your target, because wherever the target is, if they hit it like that, that's going over the fence. You've got to have it pointed exactly where you want it. Well, how do you get it pointed exactly where you want it? And the reason that you want to put these elbows into play is because the elbow is the secret to having your racket pointed towards the target. Look, if my elbow is in, the racket's not pointed towards the target. But if my elbow is up, now it's pointed towards the target. That's the name of the game. Nothing complex, elbows up. And remember, we told you this is kind of an awkward feeling sometimes. Sometimes your back gets a little tired. But those elbows up get you ready for the hit. Let's go into the grip.
We told you that on the forehand ground stroke, the regular forehand, we like you to play with the palm. We want you to do the same thing on the volley. If this palm is on the back side of the racket, it matches this racket face. On the backhand, if the racket is placed in this manner, the palm up on top, now you have a regular backhand ground stroke. The grip in between those two is called the Continental. But I prefer the Eastern forehand and Eastern backhand. Now, when you go to volley with the forehand, your racket is pointed in exactly the same place as is your palm. On the backhand side, you keep going with the knuckles towards your intended target. Now, people say, wait a minute, man. I know that when you're up at the net, there's not sufficient time to change grips. Wrong. Remember we told you that you can change grips faster than you can take a single step? Well, you're going to be able to get a single step when you volley. Because if you can't get one step when you volley, you have to go to chess. So you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to get the fuzz sandwich for sure. Now watch. Practice putting your palm down, an eighth turn this way. Each palm goes down. And if you see that you take each palm down an eighth, you add that up, that's 2/8, that's a quarter. And that's all this is, 1/4 turn. Now watch, palms down. Now I go slowly, 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 and I've got it. Now I'll try to move my foot with it. So I go, ha! See if you can move your foot faster than you can change your grip. Now watch, ha! Ha! Well, you can't, so now when you're going to volley, you just go, ha ha! And you got it. You don't have, just palms out. That's the name of the game. But when people say, wait a minute, I prefer the Continental grip. And that's halfway between the forehand and backhand. And the reason is the Continental, I can hold one grip for all strokes. My feeling about the Continental grip is it's going to create some problems for you. Now, take your best shots at me. Some people don't like me for saying this. But when you hold a Continental grip and you reach out for the volley, the racket is pointed towards the left side. People say, wait a minute, then you just have to point it the other way. That's the problem. If you have a double-jointed elbow where it comes up like this, we find you can do it. Now, people who hold a Continental who can volley well into that corner actually hit it off the backside. And there's some very good players. Kenny Rosewall, for example, fantastic on the Continental. And that's the argument I get from a lot of pros. They say, yes, but half of the pros use Continental. Jack Kramer's argument was, that was nice. I knew automatically I could beat half of the players. He thinks the Continental has done more than any other single factor to destroy good strokes. But the argument wages on. But just remember, for my purposes, don't get mad at me. We only care about how the racket face meets the ball. If you want to play this way, that's okay. I'm telling you, if you're good this way, you'll be more in demand than Borg, really. So don't worry about that. All right, a good volley requires that three things be on the same level. Racket head, the ball, and your eyes. And if you want to volley well, always have those three things on the same level. The elbow is out, the ball is here, racket's here, your eyes should be here. Ball here, racket here, your eyes here. That means you have to have strong thighs. Now be very careful, because when you're going into the training table, if you get too fat, you can't bend down. Your stomach gets in the way. If you like those low-cal donuts like me, you could get up to 200 in the right thigh. So you've got to be able to get yourself down. So stay in shape. Now don't come in and volley close to the body. When you come in to volley, you want to be away from the body, further away. But most people like to come in, and that's when, you know, if you do it wrong, you're going to be in trouble. For instance, we see people come like this, but their ball's coming close, and that fear takes over again. And they go, remember now, when you're moving, you want to move into the ball on your volley, but we see people go, what did he say? And now, all right, move into the ball and keep that racket head up. All right, finish high on your follow-through. The racket head finishes high. Don't let it finish down. Again, remember, a down hit is catastrophic. Just 2 or 3 degree down hit is bad. But why so much concern about keeping it high? The real big concern for keeping the racket high is you're now ready for the next volley. And when you hit it like this, you're ready. Now let's take a look at what the stroke looks like. From this side, it looks like a little bow, that's all. Or you can actually come across the tabletop. But we like you to run through your volley, because when you run through the volley, especially if you're at mid-court, now you can keep the racket smooth. But most people come in and stop to volley, and it's just like a car where you put on the brakes, the back end goes up and the front end goes down, and here's what you see people do. They go. So you want to try to keep that racket head up and go across the tabletop if you possibly can. All right, now remember, when you're going back for the volley, it's a short shoulder turn, not a racket lay back. Keep your elbows in front and turn the shoulder. Very short punch. But don't freeze the shoulder and snap the arm. If you are playing this game, you must remember the ball's on the strings only 4 milliseconds. 4 1,000ths of a second. And again, that's not much time. It's gone, and you can't even see the ball hit your strings. Then people say, well, but you told me to follow out this far. You don't have to follow that far. Look at McEnroe. As great as he is, he comes to the net, and he goes, ting, that's all. Think about it. For this, he makes 100 thou a week. All right, this time I got to get over on the other side of the net because I want you to see this shot in exactly the same way as you'll be hitting it, because this one relates to the left arm on the backhand side. You ready? Most of the problems on the backhand, in my opinion, come from the left arm. Most people put the left arm on and then pull it back and snap it. But remember, 1 degree is 6 feet of length. 1 degree, 6 feet of length. That means people who play like this, if they're late, they're lucky to keep it in the state. Right? So you're going to pull the elbow up and do this. Now the knuckles represent your target area. If you're going to keep the knuckle towards that target, you got it. It's got to go there. This side. This side. But the knuckles are the name of the game. So the left elbow up and don't pull it back. And if you're going to make the turn, don't pull the racket back with the left elbow. What we want you to do is simply turn the shoulder back and make this movement. And remember the stroking style. It goes out and up. It does not come down, but that's the typical movement. All right, I got to get back to the other side because now we're going to talk about forward movement. And I want you to see what it looks like when I'm moving into you because it's really big. When you are running, and this is true of good race horses and all kinds of activity, if you are running forward and your head is staying very smooth, you're very efficient. Most people run with their head wavering. So we would like you to learn to volley on the run because if your head stays still, this one stays smooth. But again, when you try to stop, this head falls, racket head falls. Forward movement is your power supply. Now, it's very important to remember that if a ball is coming right at your face, you can get out of the way of that ball faster, actually moving forward and off at a diagonal. You can take 2 steps forward for every one that you could take backwards. So you're much faster getting out of the way of the ball going into it. Most people back up and then dig the ball out of their navel. You see, you don't want to do that. So go forward this way. Put the racket where your face is and then move out of the way. But again, remember, don't get confused because many people do this. They forget, they step forward and move the racket out of the way. And that's when you get the flush sandwich. All right? Now, you're always going to try to move into the ball. Remember, the closer you are to the net, the less talent you need, the wider is the angle. And if your opponent is going to hit a lob, you turn and run back. Now, 3 steps only. But people say, wait, I can't tell whether they're going to drive or lob. You ought to go scout people and see how they look. If you're at the net, here's what you see when people are going to lob. They go, well, when they're like this, they ain't going to drive, right? So if they go like this, you go back. If the racket's here, you come forward. But people say, what happens if they're like this? And then I back up, and the guy goes, ha-ha, tricked you, and then throws a drive. See? But most people can't even hit 1 stroke, you know, much less 2. So don't worry about it. Now, you need to get a fast first step when you're at the net. We know that you know where the ball's going. But people, remember from our first session, people have a tendency to confirm their decision. Don't confirm. The first decision you make at the net is the best one. So if you think it's a forehand, take off and go. And if you're running the wrong way, you still confuse your opponent anyway. They don't know what you're doing out there. As I said, they'll stare at you for a long time. But think about it this way. Say you were playing Borg, Chrissy Everett, or one of those players. Now you're at the net, and you're stuck. They have a very easy shot. If you will run one way or the other, just as they're hitting the ball, you have a 50-50 chance. But if you stand in the middle, you get passed on both sides. So run one way or the other. What difference does it make? If you say, I don't want to look bad. Well, this other way, you're guaranteed to look bad. See, the other way, you have a 50-50 chance of looking good. Sandy Maier's pop told me an interesting thing. Sandy Maier is a very fine player. His brother Gene, terrific player, father, a terrific coach. He said, hey, look, I don't care which way you go, Sandy and Gene, but you must go one way. Now, if you'll get in a habit of going one way or the other, then your guesses become more and more educated guesses. But it's that fear and that inhibits movement. And when you're afraid to look bad, that's when you're going to be in trouble. So don't be afraid to look bad. Take off and go. And it's going to absolutely shock you. Well, now, why are some people so late starting again? Again, because they have to confirm the decision. One other reason is that many people haven't gone out and scouted. But here's why some players can move so quickly. And that is the pros have gone out and played these people a million times. They've gone out and charted them. They've tried to analyze their movement. For example, we have a new camera. The camera is called an iMark recorder. All of a sudden now, instead of people telling us what we can see, the new camera actually shows us what they see. There's a light that reflects into the pupil. The pupil goes right onto the film. There's a fiber optic that comes down the back. And now, whatever they're looking at is being filmed through the camera that's on their back. And also, exactly where their pupil's looking. And if you were looking at me right now, you see a dot on my forehead, chin, and that dot's going all over the place. I know where you're looking when I get the film back. Now we put it on some of these best players. I was very, very interested. Where are these players looking, especially the ones that can get all the way over 3 steps on the volley, all the way to the sideline, because those guys amaze me. You know, when you play them, you hit the best passing shot you've ever hit in your life, and they're there like it's nothing. So what's their cue? Are they looking at a hip or a knee? What's the giveaway sign on their opponent that allows them to get there so quickly? Guess what? One of the fastest guys on the volley was looking in the trees. Wasn't even looking at the opponent. So when we did a little research, we found out. We said, why were you able to break so fast and get 3 steps over and make it look so easy? They said, look, I've played this guy 1,000 times. Every time I hit it deep to the backhand and they have this leg crossed, they always go down the line. See, they went with statistical cues, not visual cues. You know, you got to get to the net. Well, how do you get to the net? Well, there are only 2 ways. One is when you're playing backcourt, your opponent's backcourt, and they just rally back and forth. All of a sudden, they hit you a short ball. Now, when they hit you a short ball, that's your opportunity. You come in, you approach the net. That's called the approach shot. You hit it deep to the backhand corner, you come up to the net. Now you're ready to volley. The only other time you can get to the net is if you serve and you're going to attack. You're not going to let that toad stay back there and rally. You're going in, man. So now you follow your serve into the net, and you're ready to the volley, their service return. Now, if you are going to come into the net sometimes, everyone isn't going to hit the nice, easy volley for you. Sometimes they're going to hit it down at your feet. So you're running in, and they hit it at your feet. Now, what do? You can't say, play 2. I don't take anything below my knees. You can't do that. And most people come in and just scoop. See, people don't really work on this shot. That little scooper at your feet, that's called the half volley. Now, it's not really a big volley, and it's not really a ground stroke, but it's a scooper, as in baseball, a little pickup in baseball. Well, there's a way to hit that, too. But I'll tell you what's good news for you. The way you're going to hit it is the same way that you will hit a regular forehand and a regular backhand. But you just have to start from a lower position. So when you're running in, all of the things that we've told you about the forehand and backhand stay the same. For example, the racket head stays vertical. I'm coming in, so my racket head is vertical. It's not coming in and scooping like this. I'm going to go low to high. My head stays still. Even though I'm running in on the half volley, I try to keep my head still. Most people come in and go, no, well, because they're so startled. Keep your head still, keep your eyes down. Now, here's what's interesting, the way you run in. Most people come in and then face the net. That places the racket in a scooping position. You should come in making the back foot move in front of the left foot. Watch, left, now right in front, left, right in front. But see, people come in and they do this all the time. You see them go, and then they fall. So don't get the wrong foot coming behind. The back foot always comes in front. And you'll see that if your thighs are strong, you can get in there, down, lift, keep your head still, and come up. And you can literally bring your half volley right under your chin, just as though you were hitting a regular forehand ground stroke. So don't treat them differently. Now, where do you hit the ball? When you hit on the forehand side, on the half volley, you hit even with the front side. If you look at this, I'm hitting even with my leg here. But on the backhand side, you must hit further out in front of you. Remember, on the backhand, the shoulder housing the hitting arm is on the front. So you must hit further in front. So on the volley, you hit further in front of you on the backhand. On the ground stroke, you hit further in front of you on the backhand. On the half volley, you hit further in front of you. But see, most people come in and hit late, just like they do on the forehand, even with the front side. Now they're dead. So always try to get the ball further out in front. Remember on the half volley, especially on the backhand side, you need strong extensor muscles, because when you have these strong muscles, you can keep the head solid. But most people come in and let the wrist fall. Now, if the wrist falls after the hit, it's not too deadly. But if the wrist starts to fall before the hit, and that's what happens. People come in and let it fall, the ball hits and just falls right down your thigh. Now, you want to remember that you're on the move when you make this shot. But you know, some people don't realize there are two types of half volleys. The two types of half volleys relate to singles and doubles. When you're playing singles and you're coming to the net, you want to keep your opponent way, way back there. And so when you come in and hit, you bring the arm under the chin like this. But when you're playing doubles, your opponent's very often at the net. You see where you're standing right now? I don't want you to get a nice high shot, because if I lift the ball at my feet and you're standing there and you come in and hit it, I'm going to get the early lunch, man. So I don't want to hit it up there high. Now, in that case, I will hit a doubles half volley where I don't come under my chin. I'll come in and play the racket almost straight up. Watch how this ball falls. Oh, that one fell too fast. But you notice when I come in and lift up straight, the ball goes over and down quickly. Now you come in to lift, I come in and give you the new look. See? That's important. So in singles, I'm going to hit the ball, drive it deep, keep you back there. And that comes out with a nice level swing. But in doubles, I'm going to come up almost straight. And that will take the speed off the half volley, make you lift it, and I can come in and kill it then. So learn a different one for singles, a different one for doubles. But still, you lift your body the same way. Now, I want to review some points on volleys and half volleys. On volleys, remember, keep your elbows out, racket head up. Don't let the racket fall down. Learn to let the racket stay up. Think about a tabletop. Remember that no one here is strong enough to stand way back there and hit straight through on a volley, because gravity picks up the ball so quickly. If you're going to make an error on the volley, make sure it's long. You don't want to come in and hit too short unless you're right on top of the net. So when you're warming up, come in and hit your volley over the baseline, long for a while, so that you get this feeling. And you'll see the tendency always is to get this look. And it's tragic, because you come to the net and do this, and if it does go over, now they come in and wail on it, you get the fuzz sandwich, and you just can't stand it. You don't want to play them anymore. So keep the racket head up, go across the tabletop. When you volley, come in, keep your head still. Watch my head. Don't try to stop and volley unless you're right on top of the net. This is different than many people think they should hit the volley. Most people have been taught stop and volley, but our research shows that the racket has a tendency to go down. Racket up across the tabletop. Remember, on the volley, you have to switch grips quickly, because you don't have much time, but you have sufficient time. But you have to practice. Put this palm down, and you'll see that it puts the racket on top right away. Right away. Now try the little drill. Try to move your foot like this as quickly as you can, and see if your hand beats your foot or your foot beats your hand. And you'll see that the palm gets up on top of there very, very quickly. You'll have time to do all of this stuff, but you have to practice it. Now, when you're coming into the net, remember, you land, but don't land and plant yourself there for all time. When you come in, it's like a bus station. You stop, you raise the heels, you get ready to go. Your mind is thinking forward, forward. And just make sure you believe you're going to get out there and put the volley away, because you're not in the middle of a point. You're trying now with one volley to close it out. So if they're going to drive the ball, you step forward. If they're going to lob, you go back. And remember your cues. When they're like this, they ain't going to drive, right? So you're going to turn and go back. But when they're like this, you're coming in, because they can't go and then lob it. So you're going to be home free. Don't be afraid to attack a ball that's coming right at your face. Because if you can get out of a ball, out of the way of a ball very quickly, moving forward. Most people move backwards. Keep your wrist very, very firm. Don't let this wrist flop. But you'll have to build up those muscles. Put a racket cover on it. Try to get the racket cover so it's heavy enough. Put one ball in it if you have to. That'll build up those muscles. But don't do this. The racket head is vertical on the volley when you hit. It does not chip. It does this. People think they do this, but they don't really. I want to show you. You have plenty of time. Mike Bale, one of our coaches, get out there. Let's just hit for a minute. Now watch this, baby. See if Fat Albert can keep that ball in play. Oh, I didn't switch. I lied. All right. Watch it. Oh, switch. Good, Vic. See, I switched. I had a much better volley. Give me a backhand, coach. All right, watch this backhand, baby. Switch. Switch. Now I'll go to the forehand. Give me a forehand, make me switch. You didn't switch. We got to practice, Mike. No wonder we weren't invited to the major event.
Oops, sorry.
I've switched every time now. All right, remember, everybody, as soon as I learn to switch this grip and move, oh, I'm getting better, then we get ready to think about the approach shot. That's all coming your way. Next week, the approach shot. Hang in there. I've got to stay away from that bread.